Hi, good evening. Amy Hill with Sandy Run News. I am here with Mr. Taylor Oxendine with the Central Carolina Realtors Association, and we're going to discuss the proposed zoning plan for the Sandy Run area tonight so that viewers can be a little bit more informed prior to the Thursday meeting next week on the 24th at Beulah United Methodist Church. And I'll post the times in the actual article. But how are you doing? And thank you so much for letting me come out here and ask these questions to let Sandy Run landowners know what this is about and what the changes could mean to landowners.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here and glad to talk about it.
Good. So I've got a couple of questions written down here. I'm going to read off the paper just to make sure I get it right, so viewers forgive me. But what is the proposed zoning amendment and planned rezoning of Sandy Run?
Yeah, so in 2019, the Calhoun County Council approved the Sandy Run area plan. That plan basically analyzed Sandy Run's population, traffic, growth as, the Columbia metropolitan area is, growing over the past 10 years. This proposed zoning amendment would revise the zoning code and create 4 new zoning districts. Two important ones for us are the new residential districts, the Rural Preservation District and the Rural Neighborhood. In these districts, the ordinance has a minor subdivision standard. So if you had a minor subdivision creating 3 or fewer lots in a rural preservation or rural neighborhood district, you would fall under the outlines in the ordinance that were already there. But subdivisions creating 4 or more fall under new requirements, and these new requirements, for example, are all subdivisions that create 4 or more lots in the rural preservation and rural neighborhood districts would provide a perimeter buffer yard at least 30 feet in width along all property lines comprising the exterior boundary of the subdivisions. So that means that that meets the required vegetation planting standards. So all such subdivisions would also have to meet proposed trees preservation, landscaping, and homeowner association requirements. Now the county, for the meeting on Thursday, has released a new kind of updated ordinance that now says instead of 3 or fewer falling under the the already current standards in the ordinance, now it's 6 or fewer. And in order to meet these new requirements, it's 7 or more. So that may mean that fewer people are affected. We're not sure, we're still studying that, but still, if you have 7 or more, you're going to be hit by this new requirement outlined in the ordinance.
And so the purpose of the ordinance was really to keep Sandy Run rural and kind of protect that rural character.
Yeah, as the Sandy Run areas be more developed, I guess there's been concerns about wanting to preserve that rural look that not only Sandy Run but all South Carolina kind of has.
Right. So what impact will the proposed zoning amendments and planned rezoning of Sandy Run have on property values?
Yeah, so based on our analysis, this ordinance would have negative consequences on homeowners. The adoption of the new zoning that would significantly reduce potential development in the area, and that means that developers that are seeking to develop areas in the Sandy Run area, they're going to end up paying less amount of money to property owners than they would have before the downzoning that this ordinance creates, where you are unable to sell as much as you could without the ordinance.
And so that does affect property owners currently, as far as why do you buy land? You buy land for a couple of different reasons, and in that area farming was a big reason, and then the other reason would have been for investment purposes or handing it down to family members. So if it devalues the land as far as how much you need to sell to parcel off to individual houses that are being built, I can see why buy property if you can't profit off of it or make money off of it or be able to hand it down to your family so that they can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see a situation where, my husband and I have so much land, if we needed to sell off a couple of acres, that could devalue what we sell in the future after we're retired.
Yeah,
so.
For instance, if somebody had a child that's going off to college and they wanted, they had planned to sell off a portion of their land to pay for that child's tuition, that could be affected by this ordinance.
Right.
You may not be able to sell, enough parcels to be able to pay for that education.
Wow. So what is downsizing and how will it affect homeowners in the Sandy Run area?
Yeah, so downzoning it occurs when a community enacts or amends its development regulations in a manner that reduces the development potential of an affected land. So in this case, the ordinance would reduce the development potential of the Sandy Run area. Based on the current map that was provided, most of the area is rural undeveloped area, and will now with the ordinance be rezoned to rural preservation, rural neighborhood, or open space. So before there was any regulation, now with this ordinance you have these new requirements that were not in place before, and like you were saying, that that could potentially affect future financial security of those landowners that have property or land that in the new ordinance that we see has 7 or more areas that could be created rural preservation, rural neighborhood districts that could limit their potential to sell off. We said the college example. There's also if you have serious medical issues,
right.
And the only other option you have is to sell off portions of your land. Yeah.
Right.
So those are definitely issues that from the Realtor Association side, looking out for homeowners that we're concerned about.
Right. Land is an investment. So will the new zoning amendments actually succeed in guiding growth to existing developed areas?
Yeah, so this is kind of what we were talking about before. So one of the issues that probably was not intended originally but could be created that we've seen is that these large minimum lot sizes created by this ordinance creates this sprawling effect where somebody looking to buy a home, they're only looking for 1 or 2 acres, now have to buy more than that in order to qualify under this ordinance. So I mean, for instance, they may buy they only need 2 acres, but they have to end up buying 7 or something like that. What ends up happening is that they only use the 2 that they needed, and the other are left untended, and then you'll get other homeowners do that, so you end up having this sprawling
which is what they originally the neighbors wanted, as far as to keep it rural, and I understand that, but I also understand that when it makes it more expensive for the buyer as well.
Yeah. So and I mean another unintended consequence, I mean you kind of lose out on the tax base by having more these areas where you can have more people come in and live in the area to increase that tax base for the county, but that's kind of lost out by this. So, I mean that's one of probably the unintended consequences, that it may end up consuming more of this area that they want to protect than it would actually save.
And would it give the potential to landlock future roadway widening and development if this sprawling occurs?
I mean, that could. With the sprawling, I mean, that does cause road issues and transportation issues. I'm not sure on the full analysis on that, but I mean, that theoretically, that would.
Yeah, I know result. That occurred in Lexington many years ago, where they one gentleman was desperately trying to get them to plan bypasses and roadways, and they ignored it, and now Lexington is a complete and utter nightmare because they're landlocked. So what are some alternatives to what the county is proposing to make it successful.
Yeah, so I mean, like we said, I mean, it's unequitable and unfair to require these private landowners in this area to, carry the burden for
Right.
preserving the county for the rest of the residents in the county. I mean, we would request that, they take instead of taking a broad brush approach to this issue, they should focus on protecting, the county's most valuable resources, their agricultural land, wetlands, significant woodlands, and, important scenic corridors. One thing we've seen pretty successful in other areas is something called transferable developmental rights.
Mm-hmm.
And, but this is we've kind of gone around talking about this whole interview, but the loss of developmental rights by these property owners because of this ordinance. What TDR does, transferable development rights, is that it basically encourages the homeowner to keep their their land like the county would want it, to keep that rural character. But what happens is that that landowner would receive basically a credit or a payment if other areas where the county wants development become developed. They would actually receive a payment for that
Not
area being
selling.
developed and not selling their area.
Gotcha.
So it's a little kind of difficult to understand, not getting a payment without having to sell land, but it's
Right.
basically the county giving
Incentivizing.
back, incentivizing you
Mm-hmm.
for losing your developmental rights, but you'll still get that payment. So that's something that we've seen in other areas that's been very successful. That is equitable, that's fair to the homeowner, that we would ask the county maybe to look into. I know at this meeting they'll hopefully hear from other property owners.
Property owners may not even know about that being an option
Yeah.
to ask for it, because I remember when they started talking about this plan, they had 40, 50, 60 people show up at any given meeting and less, where they were compiling what I would call a wish list of Sandy Run residents, and everyone wants to keep it rural, but the fact of the matter is it takes away the liberty and the rights of the landowners to profit. And
Yeah.
again, land is an investment. And I mean, my suggestion, if anybody wanted to keep it rural and they were dead set against any solutions in this plan, would buy the land.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it rural, buy the land.
Mm-hmm.
Don't force your neighbors to lose out on their investment, or demand that they keep their rural character to benefit
Yeah, because there's
the neighbors.
Yeah, there's the concept of a bundle of rights with your land, and
Right.
like I mentioned, the developmental rights that people have that could be lost because of this ordinance. That's just something that we would ask the county to look at to protect those rights, like you were mentioning, that
Right.
the landowner has.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think of that citizens of Sandy Run can ask the county? Just to give it more time, even.
Yeah, I mean, I
it
would-
shouldn't be rushed.
Yeah, I would definitely, obviously encourage everybody to go out to the meeting on Thursday and voice concerns and really look at the effects this ordinance could have on your property, because there's a lot of people that could be affected even with the change from 3 to 6. That
Right.
this is an area that has really great potential to be developed, and it may be short-sighted to not think of the future and what could be missed out by basically losing your right to sell your land for what it's worth, and the income that you could have from that land that you think you might get in the future. So
Yeah.
I would definitely make sure to be out at that meeting.
I absolutely do not know any landowners that wants their land devalued.
Yeah.
It's hopefully the neighbors that live in Sandy Run understand that landowners' rights and their investment should take precedence over what you as a neighbor wants.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Yeah.
and hope you come out there.
Oh yeah, I will be there. Yeah, I will be
Absolutely.
there.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.